February, and attendance records are set to be smashed.
In America, the Ultimate Fighting Championship follows only the NFL, basketball and baseball in popularity. And if hand-to-hand combat is what you like, it's not hard to see why.
Good knees. 4 and a huge uppercut.
The UFC is holding its first event down under on February 21, and it doesn't look like it'll be the last. It sold out within 8 hours of its ticket release, the second fastest selling event in the franchise's history.
Not all the tickets were actually released in the pre-release. Had they had the opportunity to sell out, I think we would have equalled the record.
In comparison, Danny Green's win over Roy Jones Jr. failed to fill Acer Arena. UFC 110 is shaping as the most profitable sporting event ever held at the venue.
While we're always optimistic and confident, what actually occurred blew our mind.
The card will feature 4 Australian fighters. Jamie Tahuna will make his UFC debut, while Sydney-based mixed martial arts veteran Elvis Sinisic will face Brisbane Broncos wrestling coach Chris Haseman.
Predict probably KO first round.
Geelong's George Soteropoulos, considered one of the most promising lightweights in the UFC, will fight former title challenger Joe Daddy Stevenson in what he describes as his proudest moment to date.
I get to fight at home in front of my country doing the greatest sport on the planet.
Adam Thompson for Sports Tonight.
We're joined now by Marshall Zelaznik, Managing Director of International Development for the UFC. Marshall, why did you decide to bring UFC to Australia?
As the UFC, we have major goals to make this the fastest, most compelling sport in the world. We intend to be the biggest sport in the world. Australia was an easy market for us, we felt like. We knew we had great television ratings here, and we knew the Aussies liked their combat sports. So we were very optimistic, and obviously with our ticket sales, it seems to have been proven correct.
Well, you mentioned the ticket sales. They went on sale last week. Are you surprised by the reaction?
We're always cautiously optimistic. I don't think we could have planned for a sellout on the first day that we were on public sale. We had planned a marketing campaign that we ended up having to scrap. We're going to re-trigger that money. I guess we were surprised.
There are people out there who say it's too brutal. What do you say to those people?
Look, it's all about perspective. The reality is that when you ask these fighters, there's no ill will, there's no intent to do any bodily harm. They're actually just competing. These are some of the finest athletes in the world who are using the tools that they've developed through training. They happen to be fighting inside a caged ring. But the reality is this sport is safe. There's never been a death or serious injury in the UFC. I challenge any other sport to really make that claim.
Marshall, if UFC continues to develop, could one day it become an Olympic sport?
There's no reason why it couldn't. When you think about the athletes competing, just about every nation has a very compelling fighter who competes in the UFC. Also, when you look at the fighting styles that these fighters employ inside the octagon, they're using the techniques of Taekwondo, Judo, wrestling, both freestyle and Greco-Roman, and boxing. Those are all Olympic sports, and so if you can amalgamate them together into one sport, make it more compelling, you could imagine it could be the most watched, interesting part of the Olympics.
Okay, Marshall, can't wait for the event to get here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.